All right, sweet. Well, welcome, Emily, to the podcast. I'm so excited that you're on the show. And we were just talking about this. You are the first as part of a series that I'm doing with female entrepreneurs. And I'm super excited just to bring so many powerful, incredible women onto the podcast to just share it all. Like, I've got a lot of listeners on here who have businesses, others who are just super ambitious in terms of wanting more in life. And I think there is nothing better than knowing how other women kind of started and what they've gone through, because when it comes to social media, it's all good and well to see the pretty stuff on social media and the amazing life you can build when you're building a business or when you go after your dreams. But I think often what is missed is how they got there, and like the mindset shifts that they went through, the hurdles that they faced. And so essentially today I want to just talk to you about your business and your mindset shifts, and if you could go back to your self when you first started the business, what the advice would be. And to the listeners, I just want to help you guys close the gap and really show you that the frustration that you're feeling right now, the confusion why your results aren't coming, or if you're just like, why can't I believe in myself? I just want you to know that you're not alone. And that's what I hope that these episode series are going to help you realize, that you're doing the right things. And it's just a matter of maybe tweaking your mindset or tweaking your systems to close that gap. But yeah, as I said, thank you, Emily, for being here. And I'm just super excited to hear from you. But in terms of an intro, I'm just going to hand it over to you. I know we're going to be diving into business. So if you could just share like who you are, where you're from, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm super honored to be your first guest in this little series you're doing. How fun. And yeah, I mean, I suppose my backstory, it goes, well, I started in the entrepreneurial space, very similar to yourself in the network marketing world. But even before that, I was studying in architecture, in the architecture industry. So I was studying my bachelor's and I was also working a 9 to 5 in the architecture space as well. And so I started my podcast, which is the Empower With Them podcast, about the time that I graduated from my bachelor's. So this was 2019. And so stepping into 2020, I kickstarted my own podcast, which was this real beginning of my own personal development journey. And so at that time, I was in the network marketing space because I had felt this big disconnect with the degree I was studying and the path that I was on. And I knew I wanted more, but I didn't know what I wanted. And so the network marketing space was like the first online business opportunity that I was presented with. So I was exploring it. I was leaning into it. And that is what brought me into the personal development space, starting my podcast, and really like, that's where my journey started to unfold. So I was 22 years old at this time. This was 2020, and I had just stepped into my master's degree. I knew I didn't want to do it, but I did it anyway, because like, as I said, I didn't know what else I wanted to do at that point in time, but I hit like an emotional all-time low. And this is why I really believe like we can choose to create change, or change gets forced upon us. And change was definitely forced upon me because I was at this point where I was just miserable. I wasn't sleeping because this degree demanded like me to literally go 3 days without sleep just to get the damn assignments done. I was sitting in my 9 to 5 job in the industry, counting down the hours until I could leave. I'd be listening to podcasts, I'd be brainstorming ideas on the side, just trying to think of something else that I could do. And so it was through my podcast and through actually like doing that personal development journey that I aligned with the coaching space. And I realized that there was an opportunity in that I wanted to explore. So 22 years old, decided to drop out of my master's. I was like, screw it. I've only got 6 months left, but I don't want to spend the next 6 months like slaving away to a degree that's just going to be a piece of paper on my wall one day. So I dropped out of that straight away. And then I put my pen to paper and I'm like, in 90 days from now, I'm quitting my job and I'm walking away and I'm starting a business of my own. So I gave myself 90 days to really create a plan. And then we get to the end of the 90 days. I walk into work, I hand in my letter of resignation, and I'm like, guys, I close the business at the end of this month. I am out of here. And honestly, it was scary, but it was the best decision I could have ever done for myself, because then I was able to step into 2021 going all in on my business. Look, I had $0 to my name because I invested my entire savings into a coach prior to quitting my 9 to 5. So I went literally all in, and I didn't look back, because now I'm a 6-figure business owner, and we're only growing up, and we're only impacting more lives, and like fulfilling my purpose every day now. So that's tried to keep it short, but that's my backstory.
Love that. Now take me back to before you went to quit your job, because again, I know there's so many women who are in a space where they're still in their 9 to 5. They really want to go full time in their business. Either financially, they just can't yet, or they just aren't fully backing themselves in their business yet, that they need that job security. Can you tell me about like your mindset shifts and maybe some things that you implemented that was like, you know what, take the plunge and just jump in and do this? And yeah, kind of where you were at that point.
Yeah. So the biggest thing that comes to mind for me is I literally told myself every single day that I was working in that job, I told myself, Emily, you need to believe in yourself that you can make this, this next step work. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So I made the decision from the get-go to have complete and utter confidence that it was going to work out. And I think that's the best thing that I could have possibly done for my mindset. So for that 90 days between like quitting my degree and quitting my job, every single day I was telling myself it's going to work out, because you're going to make it work out. And then if there was ever a time where I was hesitant and I'm like, oh, but what if it doesn't? What if this happens? I would ask myself, well, how can I find a solution to that? Does it mean finding a coach, or does it mean listening to certain podcasts, or doing certain bits of research, or, putting other plans in place? So really, like, if it comes down to mindset and you're wanting to take that leap, seriously work on the belief, because if you don't believe that taking that step is going to pay off, it's not going to work out, and you're not going to take that leap, because on that conscious and subconscious level, you're telling yourself that it's going to fail, right? So you need to engrave into yourself that you are going to succeed at what you do, because you are going to make it work, and you are going to find a way to make it work. So that's the biggest thing that I did with my mindset. And also with that as well, every single day at my 9 to 5 job, up until the point that I stepped away, I would listen to the same podcasts on repeat, because I found there were certain podcasts that really boosted my confidence and really helped me drive forward and take the action I needed to take. And one in particular was from the Tony Robbins podcast series. And it was the episode where Sarah Blakely came in and shared her story. And I was just so inspired by her story and how she was able to create massive success for herself from the most unlikely conditions. And so listening to that over and over and over again just reinforced that belief that if she can do it, so can I, so I just need to back myself like she did, and then I'll get the results.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you said too about it just being a decision. And I think often it's so easy to think that this is all out of our control, like leaving your 9 to 5, actually going full time in your business. It's like often a lot of women leave it up to chance, and it's like one day I'll get there. And just being like, no, this is actually in my control, and pulling that power into yourself. I'm sure you can agree that you just feel the biggest switch in your mindset, and you're like, actually, you know what, I can make this work. And yeah, I love what you said about just like listening to other women who have done the same thing. Like you are not, I don't know, you're not doing something that's never been done before. It's not like this completely outrageous thing. Like, so surrounding yourself with women who have been in the trenches and they've done it exactly that. I agree. My belief just goes tenfold. Like, okay, this is happening. Like it's happening. Tell us a bit more about your business. So what exactly you do. And, obviously coming from architect to now, this like very different.
Very.
Yeah. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So when I first started my business, it's pivoted a lot since then. I initially started out purely in the mindset space, helping people with goals and like purpose. And see, that's the thing, guys. Like I started small as well. I started with what I knew, and now I've evolved into something more in depth over the time that I've been able to grow and evolve myself. So now my business is at the point where I am providing both mindset and business support to entrepreneurs. I love working with entrepreneurs because I am on the journey that you were on, right? And for me, it's just so fulfilling to be able to help other people step into that potential that I know is within them. So really helping them step into alignment with their mindset, with their goals, and also implement systems that are really aligned with them and how they want to feel and how they want their business to feel, so then they can grow and achieve the success without the sacrifice.
Yeah, I love that you said you played started small as well, like baby steps. And I think I'm always like a big believer in growing with your business, and it doesn't have to be this huge thing from the get-go. Like, you just do what feels comfortable. And I love that you use the word aligned, because I'm huge on that as well. I think with social media, it's so easy to get wrapped up in what other women are doing and what works for them, that often you're kind of running your business as if you're someone else. And I know my business just went tenfold. And I guess that was my pivot from network marketing as well. When you just like listen to what you want to do. Like, if I could run my business how I wanted, what would that look like for me? So I guess we could go into that. Like, what does your business look like for you, and what does a work day look like for you, and how have you been able to completely align it with how you want your business to look?
It has been such a journey, like, wow. And it's still such a journey now, because when I first started my business, I'm a very intense person when it comes to like things I'm passionate about. So when I first started my business, like, I hit the ground running. I'm like, we're going to do 10K in 30 days, like, going for the big goals from the get-go. And in the process of achieving these goals, I also burnt myself out. So then what ended up happening is, like, 6 months into my business, so halfway through that first year, I experienced that crash. I experienced that burnout. And then I had to start to completely reconstruct how I wanted to run my business. Now, when I first started my business as well, the coach I invested in was a very masculine driven coach. And I am someone who naturally is more in my wounded masculine. So that just like really fueled the fire. And that's what led me to that burnout. So now I've transitioned, and I'm very much about integrating that feminine approach and creating that balance. So for me, ever since, and it's still a journey I'm building myself out of. Like, if you've experienced burnout before, it's not just like a matter of a month and you're done with it. Like, it's been a 6-month journey for me so far. And I'm finally at this point where I am able to create a clean slate and start from scratch, essentially, with my energy. So for me, my main focus in my business now is to prioritize, how do I want to feel every single day in my business, which was something that might seem so simple, but it just was not on my radar when I first started. It was my ego just driving me towards the goals. Whereas now my goals have pivoted, and after experiencing that physical sacrifice, the mental sacrifice that comes with burnout, it's like, no, I do want to prioritize how I want to feel. So when it comes to prioritizing how I want to feel in my business, first and foremost, I start by looking at my schedule, and asking myself, how does my schedule make me feel? And this was an awareness I came to probably in December last year, was my schedule was causing me overwhelm before my day even started, because I was going to bed and I could see how chock-a-blocked my schedule was from 5 a.m. in the morning on. And I would go to bed feeling overwhelmed and anxious, and then wake up the same way. And there came a point where I was like, I don't want to feel like that. I want to wake up and feel like I've got space, like I've got the ability to move, that I've got the ability to breathe. And that's a big indication for me when I am like, feeling the effects of overwhelm or stress, is my breath gets impacted. And so I made this decision that I just wanted to change that. I wanted to go through my day and feel that flow, feel that ease. And so now what my schedule looks like is giving myself that space for the first 3 hours of my morning, from 5 to 8 a.m. in the morning, it's just me time. And I'm not even strict on what I do in that time. I allow it to be very intuitively guided, whether I want to wake up and go take the dog for a walk, or if I want to go to the gym, or if I want to, I always try to do my meditations before I do start the day as something that I want to, like, I commit to for my own well-being, for my own mindset. But I give myself that space to flow. And then when I go through my day as well, it's not about being busy. It's about being productive and taking aligned action instead of taking that constant go action that's so engraved into like the hustle culture, right? So I have forgotten what your question was, but did that answer it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I love that too, because I think just generally society is told that in order to be successful, you have to work your ass off. And I think a lot of women experience this when they come from normal ways of working, the 9 to 5. If you get a degree and work your way up the corporate ladder, that usually looks like huge hours, no time freedom. So I think it's quite natural to try and bring that into your business. And it's so common how many women do, like you said, just burn themselves out or forget that often the reason we start businesses is to control our own schedule. But then we're like, yeah, like you said, you're feeling anxious about what you've got planned the next day, forgetting that you get to decide what you do. And that's another thing I'm really passionate about as well, is knowing that your results aren't dictated by how busy you are. And I'm sure you've experienced the same thing. My results like doubled or tripled when I actually slowed down and just chilled out. And yeah, stopped being like, okay, more, and just being like, you know what I've done today is enough. I'm going to just chill out for the night. There's always things we can be doing in business. So if you're in that scarcity mindset, your results are going to be scarce. So that mindset shift. But again, it's easy. I guess it's easy for us to sit here and say that, because I know what it's like at the start, where you're like, yeah, but I've got so much I need to still do. Like, what do you mean I need to take the night off? Like, I was having a conversation with a client. I'm like, get off your laptop at 6 o'clock. Like, I don't care how much more you've got to do. Close your laptop and just enjoy your night. Yeah. And she's like, I can't. Like, I've got too much to do. I'm like, don't care. It can wait. Like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, go. You want to say
And
that?
something like on that as well is what really like came to my awareness that the problem is behind that is the fear mentality that we get in, like this fear of, if I don't work 7 days a week and don't work 12 hours a day, I'm not going to get results. I'm not going to pay my bills. I'm not going to make any money. I'm going to have to go back to my old job. Right. And it was the moment that I like started to hone in on what those fears were that were driving my action. That's where I was able to start to create those changes, and not just the fears as well, but also like the experiences we've had in our lives. Because for me, a big thing that was driving my hustle mentality was my whole life, I saw my dad hustle. My dad's a very successful business person, but he has hustled his whole life. And I have seen him. It's only now at the age of like 65 where he's like, you know what? I'm going to actually slow down now, and I'm going to enjoy this, next chapter of my life, because even he could recognize the physical impacts and the stress and everything that go was having on him. So for me, it was the fear of like, what if I don't make enough? What if I have to go back? And all I had known, watching my dad my entire life, hustle. This is how you become successful. So getting clear on those things will help you start to release, and take that step back and actually put boundaries in place that are going to support how you do want to feel, and you being in alignment more.
Yeah. I was the exact same. My dad was he owned his own business, and to me, making money looked like hard work, and he would do huge hours. So the moment you kind of step back in business a little bit, you think, I'm being lazy. Like, this is not how I'm going to bring in money. It's a whole new world when you are so used to earning money the traditional ways, and you try and move to entrepreneurship where you can create passive income. You can be working from anywhere. In order getting that mindset shift around that, it does require that inner work. And I love what you say about, just like what your parents did and what success looked like for you, and that whole subconscious programming. You honestly don't realize how much it's impacting you until you unpull the layers and you're like, wow, that makes sense why I'm showing up in business this way and why my results are looking that way. But I guess if you could go back to, Em, when she first started her business and where you are now, what's some advice that you would tell yourself?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because I wouldn't necessarily change anything that I did do, because I know that everything I did at the start of my business has shaped me and guided my business to getting to where it is now. Like, if I hadn't experienced that intense hustle, and if I hadn't experienced the burnout, then I wouldn't be this like spiritually aligned coach for people who are wanting to succeed at high levels, but do it in an aligned way, right? So I don't know if I would change anything, but if I could tell my younger self, my younger 16-month ago self, I would probably say to just continue to believe in yourself and take bold risks, because it can be scary taking risks in business. But as I reflect on it, every risk that I have taken has paid off in some way, shape, or form. So continuing to take those bold risks, not like resisting what you are being pulled towards, and also embracing the journey of transformation that's ahead, leaning into whatever season you are in, embracing the challenges that are before you, and really allowing yourself to grow through them is what's going to get you to where you want to be. Because there were times where I experienced a challenge or experienced some sort of struggle and I resisted leaning into it. I was like, no, I can't be this way. Like, I need to get to X right now. I can't go down this, detour path. But just embracing those challenges as they do come up and really leaning into them and really working through them actually allows you to elevate above them a lot quicker than if you were to resist and if you were to try to go around. So there's a couple things, I guess, in the mix there that I'd probably tell myself.
I love what you say about just enjoying the transformation, because it really is that. And just leaning into each of those different stages of business, I think is really empowering. And I guess what I said before, it just puts the control back with you, and you're like, I can control how my results pan out and how the situation goes. We've kind of covered mindset, but like from a systems point of view, and actually, your business grew quite quickly. We've established because of the risk that you took and the fact that you backed yourself. But what about the systems? Because you've obviously got to have the business set up for the growth that you've had. So what does that look like for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, systems is something that from the get-go I was investing into, because I knew that there was like two options, right? Ask someone who knows what they're doing and get the answers from them, or figure it out myself. And the cost of figuring it out myself is spending the time and the energy versus the cost of investing in someone else is just money. And as you know, money is energy. And when it's spent, it's going to flow back. So from the get-go, I was investing in business coaches, mindset coaches, and still am, like, to this day. So from all of that, like, external education and guidance I've been able to give it, I've really been able to adapt that to my own systems as well, to guide me further in my business growth and guide my clients in their business growth as well. And I sort of nail it down. Like, if we're going to look at, because I imagine your audience is all, entrepreneurs working towards their first 10K and 6 figures, right? Yeah. So if I could pinpoint like a key 5 steps that you should be taking to help you build to that point, is getting crystal clear on your vision, your goals, your brand messaging, like mapping all of that stuff out. Then getting super clear on your ideal client and your offer, and experimenting as well. The first offer you put out there isn't going to be the final offer, because as you work with clients, you're going to adapt, you're going to adjust. And so having those systems in place to help you with that revision and refinement of your offer is so important. Then really implementing a social media strategy. This is so damn important. And I think people who have used social media prior to business just assume, oh no, I know how social media works, I can figure this out myself. No, there are key things that you need to put in place surrounding like your content strategy, understanding the psychology behind the content that you put out, how to actually attract people in, how to nurture people, how to then take that person from just being an audience member to being a client. And then that comes into the next steps as well, which is knowing how to build those relationships, knowing how to actually master sales. There is skill behind it. There is psychology again behind it. And actually understanding how to do this is going to be the difference between you hearing no after no after no after no to actually being able to sign high ticket clients and build a growing and sustainable income for yourself. And then the final strategy that I say you need to add on at the end there is all surrounding your client's success. It's one thing to sign a client, but it's another thing to have clients coming back for more and more and more. And I know you can see it in my mirror there, but I have this wall where I put all these sticky notes of my clients' names that sign into my business. And I look up at that wall and I like to see how many people have come back. And it's really awesome because there is recurring clients coming back and back and back again for new and different programs, Why? Because my client success systems are so well refined that we are delivering results, and people are so happy with that experience that they want to come back for more. And that is an element that I think people forget, right? They get so focused on just the finding and signing clients that they forget about the depth that they need to go to actually retain and nurture them. And then I suppose the final system that I'd add on to the end there is coming back to the spiritual element of business. Now, my business journey has been centered around spirituality, literally since the get-go. Probably 3 months into my business, I invested in a spiritual coach who I still work with today. And my whole journey of growth and transformation within myself and within my business has been built around that spiritual element, which is where the alignment factor comes in as well. So having some sort of system in place for your own growth, not just your business's growth, but your own growth. Because if you are not growing, your business is going to outgrow you and crash, or it's not going to grow at all because your business will only grow as much as you grow. So in a nutshell, there's some like key pillars to really be looking into on the system side of things.
Yeah. And I love that, like at the start of that, you just said you reached out for help. And I think so often too many women try and do this on their own, and just try and figure it all out. I know that's what I did at the start, and that's what resulted in me really burning out, because you try and be a social media manager, your admin, your customer service, try and figure out marketing and systems and all of this stuff while then trying to sell your business. It's naturally bloody exhausting. And so the moment I was just like, pay someone else that can do it. And I know if you're listening to this being like, I don't have the money yet, put it on your vision board and just make it your first goal is to outsource help if you can, or work with mentors who have, as Em was just explaining, they've, who have done it all before, and then they can just get in and help you with your business. Too often women try and do it by themselves. It's what people like Emma out there for, and myself, like mentors. We're there to help you, and kind of like allow you to avoid all the hurdles that we had to go through, by giving it to you.
Yeah. And with that as well, if you're constantly telling yourself, I can't afford a mentor, I can't afford a coach, I can't afford help, you're never going to be able to afford it, right? Because what you put out there is what you're going to attract back. Now, I have just invested into a new coach for myself, which was above what I was able to invest. But I said to myself, I'm going to lean into this discomfort. I'm going to make it happen. And then I'm going to call in the clients that I need to be able to continue forward in this program month after month. And literally the month I joined, I called in a client who's paying me the exact amount every single month that I'm going to be paying my coach to continue in this program. So as soon as you flip that switch, as soon as you switch your mindset as well, and you start telling yourself, no, I can make this happen. How can I make this happen? Or I'm calling it in for this to become a possibility for me, then things start to work in your favor. But the longer you tell yourself that I can't afford this, the longer you're not going to be able to afford it, which was just a little note I wanted to add there.
And it does always happen, right? Like when you do, I was the same when I invested in my first coach. It was like thousands and thousands of dollars. Like, I've got no idea how I'm going to afford this. But you do, like you do, the results do come. Yeah. Like when you make the decision that you're making that work, the universe aligns and the money was coming in every single month. I had no idea how at the start of that, but that's why we say just release the how and just decide you want to work with a coach, and the results will come, and they always, always do. So I love that. I guess to wrap us up, I know that, the women are going to love you and this episode. How can they connect with you in terms of Instagram, your website, any offers you have going? Spill the beans.
Yeah. I mean, the best way to connect with me is on Instagram. If you just search up @EmpowerWithEm, you can find me. You can shoot me a DM. And if you want to check out my podcast, it's also Empower with Em. But yeah, I'm so open to have a chat. Like, my inbox is always open for anyone who does want to have a conversation surrounding their mindset or business and seeing how I can support them. So I'd say that's the best way to go about it, because there's so much support I can provide. But I'm only going to know what the best fit is for you once we have that chat. So just shoot me a message. I'm Empower with Em on Instagram, and my podcast is Empower with Em also.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Well, go and check her out. And thank you again for being on the show today and kicking us off for this amazing series. I'm so excited for, what we're going to bring onto the show because of you amazing women. And thank you for your insights, your wisdom, your courage, and just, spilling the beans on what's worked for you. I know it's going to help so many women out there.
No worries at all. It was so much fun. Thank you, Jess.
All right, thanks, guys.